Everybody ready for the next panel? Let's bring it back in. Let's bring it back in. Let's bring it back in. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate that. So we're going to start the next panel, which is, excuse me, everyone. Excuse me. Thank you. Appreciate y'all. All right, so we're going to bring it back in. I want y'all to, it's not about me. I have these lovely ladies about to come up and, share their time with y'all, so I want y'all to respect their time as well as they respect yours. So we kind of leveraging your personal brand to advance your tech career. And in no particular order, we have Arianny Mercedes of Revamped. You got it. All right, she's coming on up. Please show us some love. We have, okay. No. We have Allie Tshaey of Baddies in Tech. Is it Arianny? No? Arianny? No, I'm sorry. Cinneah. I got you. Cinneah El-Amin of Fly Nance. Yo, y'all all tried to put me to the test today with these names. All right, and moderating the panel, we have the phenomenal, the amazing, from Text Giving, the entrepreneur herself, we have Jasmine Gonzalez.
Okay, how is the energy? Can I get some noise? How y'all? Come on, I know it's a lot of 9 to 5 hotties in the audience, so I want to shout out all the 9 to 5 hotties who are here. We love that.
But actually, we are joined by a phenomenal group of ladies who have all formed communities, built communities, and are honestly killing it and found a gap and took it, branded that shit, and took it over and are killing it. So I will not butcher any of their stories, but I want them each to have a chance to kind of share a little bit about themselves. And then also we're thinking of the theme for this summit, and it's about finding the tech in you. So they're going to go ahead and tell you all how they found that tech and how that tech kind of journey built their own brand and continued it on. So without in any particular order, I'll do it alphabetically because I'm fair. We will start with Allie.
Okay, cool. Well, how's everybody feeling? I'm so excited. Thanksgiving Summit, this is my first time in person, so I'm really excited. Shout out to the team for putting together an amazing conference for us. So I'm Allie Tshaey. By day, I'm a tech recruiter, specifically with a DEI niche. And then at night, I'm building Baddies in Tech, which is an organization that is creating safe space for women of color to belong in technology. So not only are we creating programming to help women of color break in, but we're also creating a safe network that is really acting as like an external ERG, right? Not everyone has an ERG at their company, so we really want to make sure that women of color who get into the tech industry have a safe space to grow their careers, to find mentors, all of the things, learn, gain resources so that they can actually stay and belong in the tech industry. So yeah, and then we're also integrating some Web3 in there to really make our membership more engaging, really make it personal, because Baddies in Tech to me is less of a community and more of an identity, right? It's like, I'm a baddie, I'm in tech, I'm gonna be who I am, and I'm gonna do great work in the tech industry. So we're making it more engaging, but also really wanting to make sure that we're educating women of color in the Web3 space so that they are are part of this next iteration of the tech, right, evolution, right? We don't want a situation where in 10 years women of color are still playing catch up like we are with tech right now. So with Baddies in Tech, we want to make sure that we're helping women of color break into tech, but also educating on this next evolution of technology.
Thank you, Allie. And if her outfit alone doesn't show you that this is an identity, she comes everywhere prepared to brand it.
I do.
Looks good while doing it,
Thank
too.
you.
And Arianny, if you want to share a little bit about your journey and how you found that tech journey.
Yeah, so first, hello everybody. My name's Arianny. By day, I'm gonna steal your little slogan thing you have going on. I work at American Express. I'm a data engineer working with the Federal Reserve to better safeguard our data just so we don't get fined millions of dollars. But by night, I'm a career consultant. I was actually started my journey at Fidelity Investments as an HR coordinator, and I realized that I was helping experienced hires get hired. So people getting paid $500,000, $600,000 in salaries. And I felt like I was adding to the global wage and talent gap that already existed. I kid you not, during my tenure, which was like 19 months, I hired 2 Black people. One was a woman, one was a guy. And that was really like I can't do this anymore. So I started my own venture, Revamped. I work with clients one-on-one to help them strengthen their professional tools just so we bypass the ATS, all that good stuff. But I'm also a firm believer in the power of education. So I use Twitter as my network and means of connecting with folks all over the world. So on Twitter, I provide free resources. I'll talk a little bit about this more later on, but sharing free resources, boot camps, remote jobs, and things of that sort. So that's what I do, and can't complain, loving what I do, right? But I am also a student working towards, I'll be getting my master's this is my first time sharing it now, I guess, but I'll be getting my master's in organizational psychology at Columbia University so I can help companies design better, equitable workplaces. So that's a little bit about me.
That's honestly undersold yourself because she's top 10 most ambitious people I've met. I am not a student, but Arianny is like literally trying to learn at every given moment. You can't pay me to go to school again. And without further ado, Cinneah, can you please just share a bit more about finance and everything in your story?
Of course. Hey, everybody. This is Cinneah El-Amin. Thank you. Y'all are so sweet. I'm the founder of Finance, an online platform that teaches ambitious working women, aka 9-to-5 hotties, how to earn more effortlessly, build wealth, and do more what they love without shame. I never thought that I would be a personal finance expert or influencer, but I have grown Finance to reach over 250,000 followers and subscribers. So really excited about this conversation around personal branding. In terms of my 9-to-5, yes, I am a 9-to-5 hottie who juggles running her own business. I have over 5 years of experience in product management. I have built and launched some of the most prominent financial products that you might have in your wallet, like the American Express Gold Card, and many other technical products. I currently work as a technical product manager at PayPal, and I think my claim to fame is that growing my career in product management has allowed me to grow my salary from $48,000 in 2017 to well over $200,000 now, and I'm only 28. So I'm really excited to talk to you more about how you can leverage the skills that you have to grow your own career, whether that's in tech or other private sectors. And you can follow me across platforms at Finance.
I think it's no mystery that I think throughout the day today you've been learning a lot about the technical ends of things and how to approach kind of getting into the workplace. But what's super important, I think, if nothing else in this economy with so many layoffs, you have to market yourself. And each of these ladies has done a phenomenal job of marketing themselves and branding themselves and creating that identity where it's like if I need someone, now financial advice ever, I am immediately going to go for Finance. Like this person, she is the vision of what I predict to be like a woman in that sector. Like that is what I think of and envisioning that. But I think that I don't know about y'all, but I hear advice all the time and I'm like, okay, I'm not sure. Like, do I start this today? But I do want to get into why branding and like why now? Like why is now the right time to begin that process? Or when was it the right time for you to start?
I'll start. I want to first speak to job seekers because I know a lot of folks in this audience are looking for new jobs or looking to grow their career. I think as a job seeker, there's no better time than now to really brand yourself and have your own voice online. You would be surprised how many recruiters, how many hiring managers, how many director, VPs, and heads of product have slid into my DMs on LinkedIn because they've seen my content, they've seen the work that I've done, they've seen my impressions go crazy, and they want a piece of that. And I think in particular, a lot of the skills and careers that you're learning about today, yes, they can help you grow a 9-to-5 career, but they can also help you build skills that you can then leverage and monetize as a consultant, as a strategic advisor, as an influencer, as a content creator. So I think it is really important for us to not just think about our branding as it relates to just getting a job, but thinking about how having that voice online, sharing some of the work that you're doing, building in public, as people like to say, is not only going to help you grow your 9-to-5 career, but can also help you attract opportunities like this to get to speak on panels, to get to show and outwardly show your personal brand to other audiences. So I think it's super important. I don't think there's been a time before now where you can literally create your own lane, whether you're on TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and use that to your advantage to really grow your professional career, even if you don't have the quote unquote traditional experience.
I just want to piggyback off that. I feel like a lot of us, especially as minorities, we always wonder, like, oh, is now the right time? Should I do this? Should I not? And my thing is, if somebody else is doing it, why can't you? What don't you have that the next person has, right? And the answer is always going to be nothing. You have everything. When we talk about personal branding and story, there's so many strategies to perfect your storytelling, but you can't tell your story if you don't tell yourself your story. So just going off what you were saying with social media, I feel like it's really important to identify what your story is, but use it as a blueprint to make space for where you want to be. Let's say you love finance and you love fashion, or you love technology and fashion, and you want to be in the fashion tech space. Figure out what you want to do, connect with the right people, and put yourself out there. It sounds easier said than done, right? Because it's like, oh, let me just talk to this person. But at the end of the day, the same fear that you have to talk to somebody, somebody's probably feeling that too. So the time is always, now is always the time to brand yourself.
I love that. Plus one to what both of you all said. I think now is the best time because, over the pandemic, we had so many people come into the tech space. So many people go to boot camp. So many people learn new skills. And so you really have to differentiate yourself and put yourself out there as like, this is the value that I bring that's different than the next person. And, like Cinneah said, there's no better time than now in that we have the tools in front of us. You need to have the confidence in yourself to put yourself out there. And I think that, like Arianny said, like you need to know your story. For me, it's taken me a while to find my story, but I think the best time is when you feel like the best time is for you, right? Like it's like when you understand what your story is, when you understand like this is what I want to project out into the world. That's when you start, putting the pieces together. And I think there is also a difference between like professional branding and personal branding. As a recruiter, and I think we're gonna get into this a little bit more, but as a recruiter, like I call it like your candidate marketing materials, right? There's that, and then there's also like, oh, I wanna, be a thought leader on Instagram or on LinkedIn, sharing my story and differentiating myself. And so I think we can get into kind of both of those and what strategies you can utilize to build both of those types of things.
Yeah. And I want to add on to Allie is a tech recruiter. Recruiters are going to look you up.
Yeah.
So you may as well give them something that they can sink their teeth into that takes it a step beyond your resume, right? Show your personality, show your authority, right? Even if you are pivoting into a new industry, you still have credibility and authority that you need to be showing. And I think especially when it comes to spaces where there are majority Black professionals, we don't do enough of that. We are the ones, right? I mean, I'm sure y'all also on Twitter, the intern that created Spotify Warped, right? And now all of a sudden, because Spotify has really put a lot of money behind it, now she's telling her story. But imagine if she had gotten ahead of that and said, hey, I created this and I can create other activations for other brands. We're already doing that. But if you're not talking about it and just letting it sit in your 9 to 5, that is when our peers are then capitalizing off of that and making millions, right? When we've created those ideas and we are fueling the culture. So, like Allie was saying, give those recruiters something to sink their teeth into.
Okay, one last thing, I promise. I really want to talk about, maybe this is like the history major in me, but historically, we've been oppressed and we've been told as Black people to go into these spaces, just stay shut, do what we're asked to do. And it's like, enough of that. Like, that's dead. That's out the window. For me personally, I know that I have so many talents and I feel like I will burst at times if I don't share all of my talents. I think that I'm too multifaceted to just be one entity, and I feel like the corporate world does that for you because it's like, okay, I'm working at, PayPal, ZocDoc, like I'm just a recruiter, and it's like once you leave that 9 to 5 job, you're a human, you're a Black person, you're a Black woman, like you are who you are post your 9 to 5, and yeah, it's cute to identify with your employer and whatnot, but at the end of the day, who are you? What do you have to say? And how are you using your voice to not only leverage your personal brand but impact others around you?
I love that. Like what you said about I'm a recruiter at ZocDoc, you're a product manager at PayPal. Like, don't stay at that level. Don't let your company define what you can do online. I know a lot of us are worried about, oh, is my boss gonna see this, blah, 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 blah. But like, you really need to understand that your career is yours. It's not your company's. They can fire you on a whim, and then what are you left with? Like, now you're just Allie, So it's like, if you haven't branded yourself or if you haven't learned your story and the value that you bring. So I think it's really important to look beyond, your job title and the company that you work for and really build something that's your own.
So to Allie's point, and I think that brings us right into our next question, I think a lot of folks often wonder, like, how do I even start cultivating that identity? And I think it's an introspective process. You do have to figure out what values you have and what is important for you in both your career and your personal life, and see how that intertwines. I never brand myself as my job or my title. I'm just a person. I think even today I've met some people and I'm like, I don't even know if you know what I do or where I'm from. But I'm a person who does XYZ. And this is what I enjoy. And I think for many of us, and I will say from my perspective, as a Latina, as a young woman in the workforce, someone who's non-traditional, non-technical in this space, I was like, okay, what do you do? I immediately sought community, which was what I found comfort in. But then eventually I was like, okay, there's enough of us that don't know what's happening. So but we are pretending like we kind of do, and that became the whole tech world for me. And I was like, okay, so no one's smart. I'm confused. But I think when we're building these things out loud and thinking out loud, sharing that perspective externally is super important. And as in the workplace and externally, wherever you want to do it, folks are looking for that information. I would say I want to probe for your advice on how you first started building your own identities, aside from your 9 to 5. And then at what point did you decide that you needed to make that jump to build a community or build your entrepreneurial efforts?
I'll go. So I think for me, it's been a journey of discovery. I think sometimes God lays out the plan for you, and then he has to then change you to be the person that can walk that path. So for me, it was always about diversity, equity, and inclusion. When I graduated, I don't have a traditional tech background. I graduated with a biology degree, but in that my kind of come to Jesus with tech was I was taking a genomics course and I was learning about CRISPR technology and how that would revolutionize medicine. And so it was that combination of what I was used to doing, which was a pre-med path, and tech that really sparked a light bulb for me. But what really did it was the fact that in that course, we had learned about the ethics of it and how all the research was being done on people of Caucasian descent. So I'm like, okay, well, dang, like I can graduate and build a career and become rich or whatever, and I can't even use this because I'm Black. Like that just didn't sit right with me, and I was like the only Black girl in that class at Syracuse University, a school of 50,000 people. So I'm like, dang, like I'm the only person that cares about this, and it really drove me to wanting to like get into tech and wanting to build something for myself. But now I'm a tech recruiter with like DEI, and so I look back on that and I'm like, oh, like the whole time it's been about diversity, equity, and inclusion for me. But that I've kind of had to grow and discover that within myself and really understand that like my brand is really about being who I am while doing really great work in the tech industry. And it's about showing up and then allowing other people to feel that they can also be themselves and also do great work in technology while just like being who they are, right? So so I think like it really is a journey of discovery, and like sometimes you have to you have like the values within yourself, but you don't know how to exude that just yet. And so sometimes you grow into it. But I think that as you're growing in your career, like it's really about understanding who you are, understanding your values, and really searching and digging deep every day, right? To say like, what do I care about? What's the ethos? Like, why do I even want to be in tech, right? Why did I like go beyond the skills, right? Like, why did you even decide that you wanted to learn like React, right? Is it because you're a single mother and you care about, building financial freedom for your family? Like that could be your brand. For Cinneah, it's about, she wants to, she cares about financial freedom and she wants to be able to travel and be remote. Like that's her brand. So it's like, what are the values for you? Like, what do you care about? I think once you discover that, then you kind of find what your brand is.
And you don't have to have it all figured out, right? Like, I think there are so many of us that have ideas that we're scared to go forward with because we're looking at somebody else and thinking, ooh, but she has all these followers and she's speaking here and there. Like, what gives me the right to do that? Y'all, I started Flynance. The Flynance Instagram account was 0 followers January 2020. Let's talk about it, right? So let's talk about how I had no credibility. I wasn't an expert. There was no one tapping me to do any of the things that I do now, right? And I initially started Flynance just talking about paying off debt and wanting to travel. Had no idea a global pandemic would happen in 2020, right? But at that point, I had a choice, right? Am I gonna keep going because this voice in the back of my mind is saying, do it, like you have to do it, you have something to say? Or am I just gonna say, oh, well, I can't travel now, so I'm just gonna pack it up? No, I kept going and I pivoted, right? We're here at a tech conference. So many of us want to work in high demand tech careers. You have to be adaptive. You have to know how to take what is given to you and create something out of nothing, right? Anyone in this audience who wants to be a product manager, that is what we do as product managers, right? There's no one telling us what to expect, what risks and dependencies are gonna pop up. We have to be able to pivot and keep it going. So I kept Flynance going. And then I realized so many of my people in my community were asking me more specifically, how do I earn more money? How do I get in a position like you where you have this poppin' 9 to 5? And it kind of dawned on me, okay, maybe I should talk about career. And I was really apprehensive about it, right? Like, yes, now I talk about 9 to 5 hotties, but initially I had a lot of fear about being that transparent about what I do for work and how much money I make, right? But then the universe had a way of showing me that I was exactly where I needed to be. I mean, in 2022 alone, I've grown my Instagram by 90,000 followers, right? By really niching down and by not being afraid to pivot, right? And then moving as my community kind of relates to me, what they need to hear from me, right? That is the tenets of being a great entrepreneur, being a great product manager. So I think for all of us, don't feel like you have to have it all figured out, right? Just start. Start to put it out there. Start to kind of figure out, okay, how can I say this? How can I talk about this topic in a way that no one else is? How can I differentiate myself, whether that's using sayings like 9 to 5 hottie, Flynance, right? How can I create those opportunities for people to see me in a different light than, my peers or my competitors?
I definitely want to, well, y'all, if y'all hear me shivering, it's a little cold in here, so my fault. But I really want to hone into your point about niching down. I think that for me, I've revamped Twitter alone to over I think I just hit 76,000 followers all over the globe. So super grateful to help people. Just a quick little story. You know, in America, we might see like $90,000 as a good salary, but some of us might say, oh, that's too low. But then when I see the global impact that I've had, and I have somebody in Nigeria or in Ghana, and they're like, wow, I would do anything to have $90,000. That like really opened my eyes for me and made me niche into what I was doing. So I started out with remote jobs, just posting remote jobs once the pandemic hit, because everybody wanted to be working remotely. I mean, even post-pandemic, who doesn't want to work remote, right? And for me, that was really my point and honing into my own niche within my community. I feel like when it comes to your own branding, we all have so much to say. So really start with an internal audit, realize the space that you're in, take notes like what is so and so saying, what is so and so saying, what's my take on it, and what expertise can I bring in to add what I have to say. Personally, I don't come from a traditional tech background. I started in HR at Fidelity. Then I decided, I think I watched that documentary. Y'all might have seen it. It was about like AI biases and something like that on Netflix. And I was like, this is so intriguing. So I was like, let me learn how to code. Let me pick up some HTML or whatever. Then I refined my LinkedIn. Accenture hit me up. They were like, oh, do you want to come in as a data engineering analyst? And I was like, okay, that's cool. Then I realized I'm doing public work consulting, doing a lot of AI and automation, which was cool. But then another issue arose. I was like, now I'm passionate about finance. So then American Express called, and I also came to the realization that as a brand, this is, whole corporate jargon, slogan, whatever, a brand. At the end of the day, we're humans, we're allowed to change, so are your interests and so are your career paths. And I think that, niching into what you do, but at the core essence, realizing why does this matter to me and how is this going to impact me 5-10 years from now? Because everything adds up. It's like a little piece.
It's a journey.
Yeah. Sometimes ugly, sometimes cute.
So when we're thinking about, I think so far we've kind of really honed in on ourselves and thinking about how we find and navigate that or cultivate that identity within our own being. Once you're in the workplace, I think that's where you start to have that internal battle of like, do I fit in? That imposter syndrome starts to hit you. What I'd love to get to is just really thinking about how that personal branding could and couldn't, or your perspectives on how personal branding has helped you navigate the workplace, and if you're at a position where you have felt that you're kind of tussling with like professionalism and your brand or your identity.
I'll start. So it's funny because where I work now, I work at ZocDoc, which is a health tech company based in New York City. They actually hired me because of my personal brand. And so, yeah, that can definitely help, right? But I think coming into the company, it was really a struggle to balance what I was doing with Baddies in Tech with what I was doing at ZocDoc, because it's similar. It's like tech recruiting, and specifically for diversity, and specifically, getting more people of color into tech roles. And so there's that conflict of interest. But I think this year I've just been like, especially towards the end of this year, I've just been like, F it, like, for real, because like, again, like I was saying earlier, I could get fired from there. I could quit, and I still want to be able to do the things that I care about. And I think also within the role that I've been working in, I started getting away from diversity in that role, and it wasn't fitting with me, and it made me unhappy, and I was starting to think about quitting. And so I really had to, approach my manager and say, I didn't come here for this. Like, you hired me because I specifically work within a diversity niche. And so we've had to change, the work that I've been working on so that it can feel more integrated, right, with my full-time job and what I do with Baddies in Tech. But I think that, I really think that you have to not care. I think building a personal brand, you really have to not care. You have to not care what your company says. Obviously, remain within the code of conduct of your company. Don't be, I don't know, shaking your ass.
Yeah.
If that's like not, that's not gonna fly. But remain within the code of conduct of your job. But like, you really have to not care. You have to not care what your company says. You also have to not care what other people say. Like, I've really learned that online. Like, there's people who are out here and they're doing like crazy things and they really don't care. And if you're doing good things, that means that like you're adding value to the world. So don't like hesitate, right? Don't like not post, keep all your posts in the draft because you're like, oh, what's this person gonna think or what's that person gonna think? You really have to build an armor, right? And understand again like your end goal and what you're trying to put out into the world, and know that it's a journey of showing up every single day for that. So. In terms of professionalism, though,
That's the white man's agenda. I'm just
Exactly.
saying, that's fake.
Exactly. It's literally, I think being professional is being yourself and doing the work that you're supposed to be there to do.
Yeah.
So if you do that well and you're yourself, then I think you're good to go. I would say that like you have to show up on the very first day at your new job exactly how you want them to perceive you. Show up with your dreadlocks. Show up with your pink hair. Show up with however you want them to perceive you, so that they're not caught off guard when you start doing that. Like don't pump fake it. Don't like code switch. Because if you show up and you're yourself at the beginning, and from your first 90 days you're doing great work, no one's gonna question you. You're gonna keep doing great work as yourself. So yeah.
Building a brand for me has reminded me that I am the prize. So I don't have imposter syndrome like I did earlier in my career, right? Because I think working in predominantly white corporate environments, especially in product, it's hard to be the only young Black woman and feel like my ideas are valid and I think that we should do it this way. Now I say bump that, right? Like, I really want to echo what Allie is saying, that it's like, I've now seen my 9 to 5 as a way that's funding my dreams, right? So as I build a brand, as I'm building a business, I made 6 figures this year, I don't have imposter syndrome because I know that what I'm creating in real life has value, is changing Black women's lives. And as a product manager, that's all of, that gives me so much joy to know that regardless of how I might feel in some of these professional settings in my 9 to 5, I know that my skills are valid. I know that I'm creating value, and I know that I could flip it and do it again, right? So I really wanted to echo that. I think building that brand and having some distance, I think, between your professional career and your true passions and gifts, I think allows you to be able to see, like, I deserve to be in every room that I'm placed in.
I just want to piggyback off because I know we talk a lot about product management, but I think for me, branding is you have to view yourself as a product, right? For example, we know phones, Apple, what's the other one? Android.
Shade.
But just even that, like, for example, Apple has a certain notoriety because of what they're producing. So we talk about branding to break into certain spaces, but even when you're already in those spaces, you have to, I don't want to say maintain the brand, but just like with every product, you get new releases, you always want to up your brand. So doing whatever or taking whatever strides it is to enhance your brand, maybe that's taking a different pivot or a different route, I think always works. View yourself as a product and you're always in beta mode. You're always looking to just grow and just better yourself, whether it be professionally and, $300,000 salary, or you just want to leave your toxic employer because, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I add to that really quick? I also want to make it very clear that, my lane of expertise is in personal finance, financial education, career advancement. The branding stuff, I had to learn from somebody else, right? So I don't want to sit up here and make it seem like I know everything that relates to growing a brand online, right? I had to make a decision to say, I want to grow finance. I want to grow my authority. I need to invest in a branding coach that is going to teach me how to sit up here and deliver my pitch in 30 seconds, that is going to show me how to turn content into those moments that are really going to convert followers into customers, right? So I want to say that because I know you've heard that throughout this day. You're hearing from people who are saying, invest in a career coach, invest in these people who can add to your arsenal. And I just want to remind you of that because I think you might see people on social media and think they have it all figured out. Let me remind y'all, most of these people who are social media influencers have teams, right? They have people who are answering emails, they have content strategists, they have people who are doing all of the work to allow them to really be in their lane, right? So as you're thinking about personal branding, and if you're struggling with really knowing how to talk about yourself professionally or as an entrepreneur, look into those individuals like me who've worked with great business coaches or branding coaches, and don't be afraid to make that investment if you're really serious about growing your authority and presence online.
To just echo exactly that, I do think you have to make that conscious choice to, this is what I'm going to do. I think our keynote this morning, he spoke about the level of delusion that he had where he was like, he's still the first 2 years of prison, and he's like, no, I'm coming home I got to do honor roll to be on the basketball team. Like, I lived, and I think we've all, when we're venturing into these efforts, like, I'm not saying be delusional, but like be so confident in yourself that like it reeks. Like, you need to be just delusional. Like, I am the best at XYZ, but to get there, it is a learning process, and I think even in technology as a whole, there is no, and when I say that nobody's smart, there is no person that knows everything about tech. Yeah. Tech is evolving. Our brands are evolving. Everything continues to like manifest and change and blah, blah, blah. You have to evolve with it or you're going to be left behind.
I want to add something real quick. I feel like even the tech industry itself has done such a great job at branding itself due to these influencers, right? Because it's like, oh, I work in tech. And people do it sometimes in ways to gatekeep. And I really personally hate that because I think that in tech, that's the ecosystem, right? Like that's where you're in, but the work that you're doing doesn't have to be technical. So I know that earlier panels talked about that earlier, but I just want to say that there's space for everybody in tech. We need people to sell products. We need people to hire. We need people to develop DI strategies so Black analysts aren't leaving at rampant rates. Like, there's space for literally everybody. Even content creators, like companies are paying content creators.
Community managers.
Yes, they are.
Before we wrap up, I am going to open back up to some Q&A. So if anyone has questions, I think someone will come to you with a mic. If not, I can just start picking randomly because I'm good at that.
I love to see it.
All right,
okay.
Here we go. Oh, there we go. I was like, do I have to?
I love it. Oh my goodness.
I was going to go to ladies first, but.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jaden. I'm a student at University of Maryland. I'm 21. I just turned 21 this year. So as a 21-year-old, trying to figure out who she is, trying to develop her brand, her identity. I just wanted to know if you guys could go back to when you were 21. What's one thing you wish you would have known, or like a word of advice you'd give to your 21-year-old self?
I want to take the lead on this one because a lot of people don't know, but I'm fairly young myself. I'm only 24, just turned 24. Yeah, I've had quite the path, just won't make it too long, but I was formerly undocumented. I was a DACA student, which led to my scholarship being revoked, so I had to start at community college. Imagine graduating literally in the top 10% of your class, being told, oh yeah, we're gonna take the money back because of your legal status. Thankfully, I'm not there anymore. I'm going to be graduating from the University of Virginia this May.
Okay, congrats.
So go UVA. But something that I would tell myself, like even 2 years ago, is you have to have the conviction in yourself, like believe in yourself so hard that you don't even care what anybody says. Like, your realities don't exist. The only reality that exists is your higher self and what you want to do. And I'm a firm believer in that if you have a vision, it's because it exists in another reality, and you have to work towards it. And I'm a firm believer in God. So if God placed that vision in your head, it's because you need to be working for it.
I love this question. I'm also fairly young. I just turned 26. And I think it's like Ariana was saying, and like I was saying earlier, is that there's a path in front of you, right, that you need to walk down. And if there's a vision in your head, it's for you. You just might have to grow and understand who you are in order to walk down that path. I think at 21, what I would tell myself is to be fearless. Like, literally, like, go for every single opportunity that comes to you if it feels right with that and it integrates with that vision that's in your head. If it feels right, go for it. Don't doubt yourself. Like, literally be fearless and take on that opportunity, because you might not know what that next step is, or like what, you might not know the end goal, but if you take that next step, the next step becomes clearer, right? Like, the path clears as you walk down it, and you start learning yourself as you walk down the path. All your experiences integrate into you, and you become like it's like self-actualization, right? Like, you grow into who you are. You don't have to, you don't necessarily like discover or open your eyes one day and you're like, oh, this is who I am. No, like, you go through your experiences and you open yourself up to those experiences, and that integrates into who you become and who you want to show up as. And one day you're like, wow, yeah, this really feels like me. And I feel like I'm getting there at this point. So yeah, you'll get there.
Love that.
This might be cheesy, but there's that quote that's like, envision the highest version of yourself and then start showing up as her. Literally move in that, move with conviction, and convince yourself that who you want to be is who you already are. You'll start behaving like that.
You on the right path, sis. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Next.
A lot of great questions over here. A lot of my black sisters over here not getting the mic. Just wanna say that. they was the first to shoot their hands up, right? I'm saying. But continue.
Get it over there. I got you.
Hi, my name is Joseph Ewan. I'm also a student at University of Maryland. My question is, you're a recruiter, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a recruiter, how would you say is like the fastest or like best beneficial way to like leverage your brand to potential recruiters for these big companies that we would want to potentially work with?
Yeah. So, yes, recruiters look at your like Instagram and your LinkedIn. Well, LinkedIn, set that aside. Recruiters look at your Instagram and your Twitter, but this is what I was saying earlier about professional versus personal branding, right? I call it candidate marketing materials. Things that recruiters look at is your resume and your LinkedIn. There's literally a different version of LinkedIn for recruiters where we go and we put in keywords and we like find you based on those keywords. So you really want to make sure that, one, your resume has the keywords that are on the job description. The job description is literally your cheat sheet. Go on the job description.
Come on, Allie. Say that, because the girls don't hear you. They don't hear you.
They're literally
The
putting
job
it in front of you.
is the cheat sheet.
It's your cheat
Come on.
sheet. It's your cheat sheet. It's literally
love
in
that.
front of you. No, it's literally like they're telling you, hey, I want someone who does X, Y, Z. If your resume doesn't say that, why are you applying for the job? I don't get it. Like, how do you, why would, because we get thousands of resumes for one job, especially at the big FANG companies. They're scrolling through them things, scanning for that keyword that it says React on the job description. Your resume doesn't say React, it's getting thrown out.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
make sure that, you have those keywords, but don't just throw them in there. Throw them into, sentences that make sense, that show the value that you've brought to projects, to your school's associations, to, whatever, your classes. Make sure that it makes sense, because yes, they will scan. They'll throw out your resume quickly, but if they stop and they look at it and say, oh, this looks really interesting, they'll take a deeper look, and like the sentences have to make sense, right?
Yeah.
And then LinkedIn, it's inbound and outbound. So inbound meaning like you send me your resume and I look at it. Outbound meaning that I'm looking for keywords and finding you. So your resume is your inbound candidate marketing material, and then your LinkedIn is your outbound candidate marketing material. So you want to make sure that your LinkedIn has the keywords that if I'm looking for a software engineering intern, it says computer science at UMD. It says I've worked, with React. I've done data structures and algorithms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, I'm about to start searching for candidates for our ZocDoc 2023 summer internship. So if you're looking, come hit me up afterwards.
Yes.
But yeah, you should honestly, like, I'm gonna start searching, so your LinkedIn should show up, right? If like you're a computer science major and like you want a internship or something like that, like if your resume or if your LinkedIn has been optimized enough, it should show up when I search.
And just going real quick off what Allie was saying, because when I used to work in HR, we obviously use ATS because the point is that companies want to streamline the hiring process. Think about Google, Amazon, PayPal, 400 applications for one job. It's a human eye is not reading that. So what we do is we, implement these systems to help us make the hiring decision process a bit easier. But with what she was saying about the keywords is so important. Even if you're making a pivot, let's say you want to go from working in finance to social media management and you're currently working in private equity. Obviously, a social media manager, you're not going to see the words buyout, private equity, and things of that sort in that job posting. So just make sure that it aligns. I always say this to my clients, think about it like a Tinder. How well do you match with each other? It's like, how well do I match with this? Yeah, that's, just a cute little dating analogy. But look at a job description, decide, okay, what meets, what doesn't meet, and then marry those keywords with your experience to make the perfect resume.
Perfect. Ladies over here, we can get the mic to them for a final question. I have full confidence that I can get it to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. I'm like,
Hi, good afternoon. So my question is, there are many people who are building their brand and following on different social media platforms. However, some people are losing their jobs for speaking about their career on these social media platforms. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, I can start with this because I talk a lot about for the 9-to-5 hotties, and I work full time. Allie mentioned this earlier, but I think it's really important to really read your employee code of conduct. So you'll see across all of my bios that I have to say views are my own because that is a requirement from PayPal when I speak on any topics because I'm a PayPal employee at the end of the day. I think there's a difference between talking about your career and talking about your personal experience in a career, and I think oversharing, which I think a lot of people are getting caught up on, right? Which is oversharing, right? So if you follow me on finance, you'll see that I'm never going into detail about what it is that I do on a day-to-day. I am not sharing any proprietary information. I'm really not giving you much into what it is that I do. Now, I'll talk at length about the work that I've done in the past, activities that I've done in previous roles, but there's a difference between talking about yourself as a professional and oversharing to the point where you could be seen as creating risks for your company. So I think understanding that line and where possible, really just toning it back, right? You'll never see me do a day in the life where I'm showing you meetings that I'm in and showing you my office because I read my employee conduct and know that that is prohibited, right? Or even things like this, right? So when I public speak, I have to let PayPal know every time I public speak. Right, so it's doing that due diligence to really make sure that you're not violating any rules, and then where possible, just erring on the side of caution. Like, you don't have to share everything. Everything is content, but I think a lot of times the girlies are oversharing because they don't have nothing else to say, okay? And that's on period.
I don't know what's happening. Sorry, that definitely answers it for sure. I mean, know enough to know the rules. You can flexibly bend rules, and I think a lot of white men have been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
To get people into the rooms, to get them into the areas. We can do the same thing. Just be mindful. I think you had your hand raised. No, you're good. Yes.
Oh God. Hi, I'm Kennedy. I'm also a student. Even though I go to a HBCU, I'm the only girl in my computer science building. And a lot of times, me being the only girl and also being the only African American girl, it's very challenging for me. Certainly because I in my own community space, but I don't I see my people, but I'm not seeing my people. So with that is, how do you feel, how did you break in? How do you feel comfortable? How did you have that community or like feel, how did you, like, because there are times like you probably feel very frustrated that you don't see yourself, that it kind of deters you from being there. So how did you keep going or feel like I belong here at the same time?
Join Baddies in Tech.
Yes, I was gonna say this is an Allie question right here.
Yeah, no, that's literally like why it exists. Like I started Baddies in Tech because I found myself at my first tech job, and I was the only Black person. I was the only Black woman, and I was looking for a community, and I had to build it myself. And so yeah, so we exist to be that external ERG when you don't have an ERG at your company, or you're the only at your, in your computer science program. Like it's literally a sisterhood. And as like we continue to grow, like I've intentionally grown Baddies in Tech slowly. If you join our Discord, because you have to register to join our Discord, right? And the reason I do that is because I want to keep it a safe space for the women who are there. And so as we think about like opening it up to employers and allies and stuff like that, we're still really being intentional about how we keep that community feel that like culture that we've grown in the community, to make sure that like the girls in our Discord still feel like they can talk about their kids, they can talk about hair, they can talk about the struggles that they're going through in their computer science program. So yeah, just join Baddies in Tech for real. But I think for you, I think you're gonna have to like find spaces like Baddies in Tech that are supporting you as a woman of color in the tech space, and then also like utilize LinkedIn. Seek out like people who can be mentors to you. Utilize other like mentorship platforms. There's what's that one that everyone talks about? There's a mentorship platform. What is it? No, I'll find the name and send it to you. But yeah, there's a ton of mentorship platforms. We're relaunching our mentorship program in I think March 2023 as well. So like really just try to like make connections with women that you like see yourself being in the future. Like you have to, I think there's like 3 levels of networking, right? Like you network with people who want to be like you network with people at the same level as you, and then you network up as well. So make sure that you're finding people who are at the same level as you, and then also networking up with people who can like get you to where you want to be.
I also want to add, if there's not a space, then you make that space. Simple. Like you find women like you, and I promise you there's so many women out there. Use digital communities like we all have to find people like you, because it may feel like you're alone, but I promise you you're not alone. And something that I've noticed working with clients, and I'm talking like C-level professionals, is that imposter syndrome and feeling unseen is something that's going to transpire throughout your entire career trajectory as a Black woman. But it does get better. It won't go away entirely. But once you find community, because at the end of the day, that's really what we have, and that's what's going to get you through, community.
It does exist. You might have to Google it. That's how I found my first community, and that's how I ended up leading one for a while. But you might have to be more intentional with how you're spending your free time as well. I know, like, I drove like 2 hours for my first tech thing for Latinas, and I was like, all right, I'm about to go take a little ride and have an adventure, and it was terrible, but it made sense later on. And I tried again. Like, it might not always be a hit. But while I've loved the discussion, and we will be here, we'll be all around today, but we do have to wrap up. I thank you all, honestly. I could chat it up with you all day. But I do hope that this was somehow informative and helpful for you if you're questioning like whether your identity is identifiable enough. I don't know if that's a term. I'm sure it is. And if it isn't, then I hope that you took some of that advice and can apply it later on or just right now.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you.